Welcome to our free permaculture class. Sustainable Kashi is so happy to offer these classes as a way to connect us all together in this time of global pandemic. So I'm really glad you can all be here to share and learn together. We're located in Sebastian on an 80-acre retreat center right on the St. Sebastian River. So we have 9 different demonstration gardens. We have an off-grid eco-village. We really try and provide a place where you can get your hands on and see how these systems work so we can all start doing them ourselves. So we invite you all to come out here for a visit once we reopen after this pandemic. Permaculture is a great hobby. But can you make a living by living your dream? That's the biggest question. I got into permaculture because I was a broke hippie that wanted to buy expensive organic food. And so I learned how to grow it. And there I learned that the permaculture model can be used in social, economic, and even global settings. Last summer, I took a road trip back when we were allowed to travel. And I came across a farm in New Hampshire. And it really impressed me. I found that this place had community, organic food, and learning, and it all came together with a whole bunch of really cool bike trails. And right now, I'm really proud to introduce Josh Trought, the director of D-Acres of New Hampshire, to share his story. And I really want to thank you, Josh, for being here, and thanks for sharing with all of us.
Hey, thank you very much, Terry, for having me. Greetings, everyone. My name is Josh, and I do work at D-Acres Organic Farm. It is located in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. We do have a website and a Facebook and a YouTube and all that. So if you search for D-Acres of New Hampshire online, you can find us very readily. So today what we want to talk about is the organization where I work and how we have been so far very fortunate to derive a very good livelihood from this place as stewards of this land. So I'd like to talk a little bit about, the pre-COVID infrastructure and the setup and get up that we have going on up here to sort of inform you as to where we were and where we are now. The name of the farm is spelled D-Acres, D-A-C-R-E-S of New Hampshire. All right, so what we operate is a very diverse and seasonal business. The annual operating budget is around $150,000. We have 2 to 5 staff, residents, and a rotating cadre of willing workers on organic farms or workaway type residents that rotate through on a more temporary basis, averaging between 6 weeks and 3 months. Our business is based around food and the land. That's what we have to offer. We have been very successful operating a farm-to-table enterprise where we bring the food out of the fields and put it in people's mouths. We also have been successful at operating a lodging enterprise. So we're doing a lot of indoor accommodations and camping on site. So it's really a way for us to derive revenue at our highest price point. We bring the food directly into the kitchen and put it on people's plates. So instead of trying to sell eggs for, competing with the corporate ag, $4, $5 a dozen, we can make 6 plates of breakfast and make $60. So it's a value-added enterprise. And since we already live in a beautiful location where we love to grow beautiful flowers and bear fruit, many people from all walks of life don't have that readily available. So it's a high valued commodity to bring people from the city New York, Boston, Quebec, 2D acres to spend the weekend, enjoy the food, enjoy the birds, enjoy time at the swimming hole, or as Terry mentioned, our recreational opportunities. We are very blessed to have a neighbor who has developed extensive mountain biking and cross-country ski network, and we are more or less the visitor center. So, you know, he's more interested in building trails than he is dealing with the public. So we have a parking lot here, we have farm store here, we have, like I said, swimming holes, showers, those sort of amenities. So we provide an access point to the network, and we can also garner revenue. You know, somebody has a flat tire, we can sell them a tube, that sort of thing. In addition, we operate as a nonprofit and with a service-based mission. So we're doing a lot of education work. We have a variety of workshops throughout the year dedicated towards sustainability, you know, lots of workshops related to food preparation, like how do you make sauerkraut? What edible plants are in our area? Can you eat that mushroom? Those sort of workshops are really our specialty during the summer months and throughout the year. And we also have music events and other ways that we get people in the community together to share food, build knowledge, and connect community. In addition, we work with local schools. So we'll go to local schools and help them with their garden, help them with an on-site trail network. We'll do farm to classroom, where we'll bring in rabbits or pigs, you know, to show people to really get that experience. It really has been a great joy to us to interact with the local school kids. It's great to see them grow up and mature, and you know, some of them are on their way to being beginner farmers. And that's really the bigger goal of our education programs in the school. In the long-term sense, we'd like to develop a K through 12 curriculum that really builds the local agricultural movement from K through 12. So, you know, when we start with the seeds in K and grow up to market gardening at 12. So that's sort of the concept that we're working on our 20-year plan, you know, that big vision that we're trying to extend out to the community on a local sense. So that's pre-COVID. And, you know, a lot of that is based on good fortune. We came to this property. My aunt and uncle had come to these 200 acres of woodlands in New Hampshire in 1942, and they bought this property for $900. So that investment, that wise investment, has paid dividends for our family for the last 70 years, 80 years. And I moved up here in 1997 to help my aunt in her elder years. She was 89 years old at the time. She's my great aunt. And she passed away at age 95, and just sort of we continued on with the farm, continued on with the adaptation that's required to manifest a community organization and steward the land. So we've grown from, you know, me coming up and sleeping in my car and making sure my aunt was okay, to now we have a community building with commercial kitchen, wood shop, farm store, a root cellar, library, craft space. We have a lot of housing on site, and it's pretty developed infrastructure. So that's sort of the pre-COVID 23 years in a nutshell. Just moving forward, I'd like to speak a little bit more about the post-COVID effects and how we've continued our adaptation. and really like to focus in on the fact that when COVID hit, we were as ready as anybody is. We've been in crisis mode for 20 years, peak oil, Y2K, the whole Trump era has put us into a mentality that this is a crisis. We've been living in a crisis situation for most of my life, I would think. There's the planetary destruction that we've wrought is severe, and we need to start acting in response to that immediately. So in some sense, when COVID hit, we're sort of ready, as ready as anybody is. And I'd like to sort of clarify that, because I think it's very important to understand how we've adapted is a result of how we were prepared. In as much as we already had infrastructure in place. We already have a food system that we can rely on. We already have energy systems that we can rely on. And I'd say also a very strong component of this is we already have a community communication, decision-making process in place that allowed us to respond as a group to these circumstances. The fact that we had regular weekly meetings where we have an agenda that carries over to the next week, so that we have organizational accountability, as well as we have documentation of the thought process that went into our decisions, really provides a basis, a foundation that alleviates to a degree the anxiety and I think the uncertainty of the situation. We were able to, discuss weeks in advance how we would open up for limited camping. Through a group format, we could say, let's think about that. Maybe in a month we should open up some limited camping to get some revenue back in here. How do we go about doing that? So over the course of a month, you can look at all the loopholes, look at all the methodology, and then implement a plan as a group. So I feel like that has been a real key to our post-COVID success, keeping together as a group and making strategic decisions so that we're comfortable mentally and comfortably physically and economically. You're trying to cover all those bases. I'll say that as well, that we do, because we are farmers and we've been through seasons of lots of intense work, that we're sort of prepared for long periods of intense work, which means taking care of yourself, finding the time to relax and rest and eat properly. And so having an organization that was set up, that we knew how to go about the everyday cooking and cleaning and getting ourselves rest, having a schedule that allocated time off is a huge jump. It's not like we just landed on Gilligan's Island on March 20th. We've been on Gilligan's Island for 20 years developing that system, and then more or less like a hurricane hit Gilligan's Island, and then we had systems in place to respond to that. So I think we've been sort of a leg up on our ability to adapt. I'll say on site, our motto became prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So with our food system, we adapted and modified from being a strictly market garden focus, because we felt like, you know, we're not going to have the farm to table volume, we're not going to have the farm stand volume, but we're in survival mode, right? We're going to prepare for the worst. So we've not growing as much salad greens, not growing as much of the, you know, sort of straight to mouth type vegetables, but more looking at storage crops. So doing a lot of potatoes, cabbage, root crops, really hammering out the Three Sisters this year, really going big with the flint corn, looking at, you know, how native peoples have, indigenous people had survived here, as well as really how we could adapt to with the situation at hand. And flint corn was a huge component of that. Winter squash, the beans, always a big factor. So you're looking for storability, as well as, you know, that variety. I mean, I can't say enough about cabbage. I love the stuff, and kraut just is the answer. You know, you can't have enough of the stuff through the winter around here. I saw a question pop up. We're in Dorchester, New Hampshire, which is close to Plymouth, New Hampshire, which is about 2 hours from Boston. In other words, we're in the White Mountains. It's zone 3 or 4. We get about 5 months of frozen ground around here. So from like the end of October to the beginning of April, the ground is frozen. So two very different seasons. Right now it's, you know, 85 degrees, and then in the middle of winter, we typically anticipate temperatures below 0 for 4 or 5 months out of the year. Right now, one of the main things we're doing is this social distance camping. So what we found is there's a huge market that's developed in these urban centers where people need to get out of the city, and they need to find a way to do that comfortably. And so a farm with 200 acres is a prime location. And we already have the infrastructure in place because we've been taking bookings for so long. You know, I have my cloud beds, reservation portal online. So the website is geared up for visitors to book, and it's just seamless that way. So what we've done is we're changing our focus on site a little bit to incorporate more car camping and spaces in the woods where people can set up tents and platforms. The website, once again, is D-Acres of New Hampshire, www.dacres.org. The idea is these tent sites in the woods are serving a multiplicity of functions for us. I'm able to go in there and get firewood. You know, we're always going to need firewood. Firewood is a commodity up here. So right now I'm stockpiling firewood. It's just as good as that flint corn for me in the big picture. So I'm getting the firewood out of the woods, and I am getting accessibility to the farm. So to get somebody in there with their fancy van, I got to have a decent road. So I'm looking at the entire property, and I'm making circles, loops around as my zones expand. So this will provide me future access to different points on the farm, which is crucial. I mean, we have slope terrain, we have a lot of water issues. So year-round access, getting in, getting out without getting stuck is crucial around here. So by doing this kind of work, I'm going to gain revenue in the short term from the visitors, but I'm also stockpiling firewood. I'm also increasing the accessibility of the farm. It is one of those things that just sort of fits hand in glove, and that's progress for us. Getting in the woods, doing thinning, finding these little flat spots or creating these flat spots, getting out the wood for firewood, getting out the branches that then we can turn into chips wood chips to use for mulch in our garden. A lot of focus right now on that. Another thing, you know, just on the day-to-day, what we're doing is maintaining our gardens and looking forward to the future. Getting in, everything has proved, once again, it's with so much else going on the side, it's important for us to really get in and focus on bringing in the harvest. So this time of year is harvest, 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 and get it in, and then we'll enjoy it through the winter and get ready to gear up for 2021. I think we have to really look and see what our carrying capacity is going to be moving forward, how to deal with the fact that our revenue stream has been and will be hampered for the foreseeable future. So, you know, over the winter, thinking a lot more about getting our ski trails tuned in so that that'll bring in the visitors, and also just thinking ahead toward how we want to operate in 2021. Is this place going to shift potentially to be more of a place where workers also derive some of their income from offsite or through the internet? So we're looking to now try to attract some people into the future that would have some sort of online career where they could help us and you know, potentially even pitch in for rent, and we could provide housing and food. But we need to figure out how to continue to adapt to these changing times, and we feel like there's an opportunity there to provide housing. Once again, it fits into this the work that I'm doing right now on site. These campsites, these flat areas, these clearings that I'm creating could also be potential house sites and RV or tiny house spots for the future. So it's you know, we're trying to adapt and do things in a progression where we're going to get positive functionality out of our efforts. Trying not to sit on our hands and wait, not hibernate, but be proactive and plan for the future for as many contingencies as we can. My voice is fading already. I haven't talked so much in, I don't know, quite a while.
Well, it's wonderful to hear your voice, Josh. I'm really grateful to have your experience in particular, because you've been doing this for so many decades. This isn't something you've just gotten into. All of the things you're saying have been tested, and those are usually the people I try and learn from, because I don't like making mistakes that other people have spent 20 years already making. So I'd love to ask you the question of, what was the biggest challenges you faced when you first got started? What were the biggest hurdles to overcome for you personally, where you're at?
Gosh, the challenges and hurdles are the work, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sort of overwhelmed with the answer, because I think in so many different directions. I think there's a lot of social challenges in this area. You know, it's a rural area. This is an area that is conservative and traditional in many ways. So moving here from the West Coast, we've been traveling around quite a bit and seeing different systems. And so there was a huge culture shock moving here. And I think for the people in the neighborhood, it was a culture shock when we showed up. So that was a challenge. Just sort of, you know, you come to a place and you have this idealism. You're coming to help, and you're gonna bring new knowledge that's you know, exciting and so forth. And the people here, you know, they weren't interested in high dollar salad greens. You know, they know how to grow their own lettuce, and they're pretty happy with that. So when we showed up with a mesclun mix and wanted, you know, to get $12 a pound or something like that, forget it. You know, they're just not interested. So learning how to fit into the community here and how to become accepted. You know, I'm not sure we had a real methodology to that. We sort of just put our nose to it and started to work. And I think, you know, there's people can argue with you all day about your beliefs and stuff, but if you're a hard worker, you know, generally people respect that. So I think that's really changed, you know, modified opinions and so forth. You know, we're not here to sit around and smoke pot and, you know, drink beers all day. We have an agenda that's pretty positive, and you know, it's hard to argue with good food, and especially if you put some in your mouth. So I think we've won over a lot of people with having that available. You know, when people can come in and really taste that difference. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, you know, this kale tastes better than any kale I've ever eaten, or these raspberries don't taste like raspberries from the store. It's like, okay, my work is done. You know, if somebody eats that raspberry and is like, you know, their mind is blown, yeah, my work is done. That's definitely it for the day. Like, I've done that on so many occasions, and it's just amazing to me that we're still pushing that envelope, but by the same token, we have to push that envelope. So one thing I do have is there's a book that's been published by Chelsea Green. It's called The Community-Scale Permaculture Farm, and it's got lots of pictures of this place, and, you know, really describes our methodology, particularly for the first 15 years. And as Terry has alluded to, it is just chock full of our mistakes. Really, I mean, that's sort of where we're at in this modality as well, in this culture, is we really have to accept the fact that we're pushing a threshold, we're trying new things. There is going to be a high degree of failure. You know, no matter how much forethought you put into it, oh, I think this is a good idea. Why isn't everybody doing this? I'm going to try this. You find out why everybody's not doing it. You know, you discover. So that's part of the process. And every failure is a success, because you're not going to do that again. You got to learn. You got to break through those barriers by failing. I wish I had maybe, you know, getting back to accepting sort of things when you're getting started and the challenges. You got to know that from the beginning. You got to know, you know, you're going to have crop failure. You're going to have insect damage. You're going to have relationships that don't always work out. You know, this stuff is going to happen. The goal is to learn from those mistakes and push this threshold forward and share those mistakes too. You got to share the mistakes.
That's beautiful, John. I'm really glad that you're taking this time to share those with us right now. You say the proof is in the pudding, or in your case, the kale. I really agree with that. And I'm just really interested in, what were your first installations on the property that you would consider to be permaculture? How did you get started with the infrastructure there at D Acres?
Well, I mean, we were very, very at a subsistence level when we first got here, you know, using a hand dug well and a pitcher pump, and cleaning our dishes with like, we'd take an old ketchup bottle and drill a hole in the top, and that was our rinse. So some of our first installations were like a solar pump for our irrigation, where we would, you know, get a 12-volt battery, get a little SureFlow pump. We'll talk to them later. Get a little SureFlow pump, get your your PV panel, and you're off and running. And you know, you're learning about solar, you're learning about how to set your panel, where the place is going to be that's going to work the best. You're learning about the capacity of this technology. So yeah, that I remember distinctly, you know, fiddling with a charge controller. Uh-oh. Hello, I'm on a call right now. Can I call you back?
You're a busy man, Josh. Thank you.
I don't know. They'll call back. So the idea is to get your hands on it at a very at a small scale and practice before you go ahead and, you know, site your huge array, your 5 kW array, and you get into batteries in your basement. And you know, you can just start small and start with the with sort of your level. Like right now, I have a 23-ton excavator. If I had purchased a 23-ton excavator when I arrived here at age 25, I would not be alive today. It's just, there's so much learning that I had to do. And frankly, it's dangerous work anytime for anybody. But having spent, you know, enough time around machines, working with other operators, learning how to cut firewood as safely as possible, that's been a process. I didn't come here with that knowledge. I built that over time and had some rough lessons as well, you know, some sketchy situations. But the excavator right now, when we started, we were doing logging with oxen. And I worked with oxen for about 15 years and would love to go back to that at some point. And I really cherish the relationship with those animals. But at some point in time, to reach the goals that we have for this site, we decided to upgrade with the mechanization. And so we have a wood chipper, we have a skid steer, we have a dump truck, and we have an excavator. And those tools really help us do our forestry. So getting into the woods and getting trees out, getting the chips out, getting the firewood out, getting the saw logs out. It's also the accessibility question, creating roads in the New Hampshire mountains that you can get along. There's something to that. There's just tons of rocks, buried terrain, water. Woo! So just making sure that can happen on a 200-acre property, the excavator is extremely helpful. The third factor I would say on that is the water. The water here, you know, we get a great snowfall, but it dries out in the summer. This summer it dried out, poof, like you wouldn't believe. The grass turned brown. I never seen it turn brown in June. Blew my mind. We got to be ready to take that water that's coming from the sky and get it into our water table. You know, when it's heading down into the valley and the next stop's the Atlantic, that's not what I want. I'm figuring out different ways to capture that water, to sink it, to spread it, to slow it down. So like right now today, I'm working on a pond infrastructure. And it's about having that pond available for the wildlife, like the amount of dragonflies and frogs and wetland plants that we're able to put into that ecology is huge for us. Like just having the water accessible for the ecological bounty that's priority number one. Priority number two, irrigation, fire suppression. Heck, we can go swimming in that sucker. So all those, you know, having your own backyard swimming pool, spring fed.
Oh, I love talking to you, Josh, just because you have the breadth of experience. To having been to D Acres and to know you're used to wash your dishes with a ketchup bottle with holes in it really blows my mind right now, because I've seen your infrastructure and it's really, really impressive. I wanted to ask a question about your social interactions. Like, I know that's one of my biggest challenges working on my project. And how has that through the years been for you? And how have you best learned to deal with that, even post-COVID? Because I'm sure that's put a strain on the relationships and social aspects of what you're doing.
So I guess just to define that, would that inclusive, would that be like with the community at large, like the people that come here to volunteer or to, you know, to walk the trails, or they're just sort of, you know, workshop participants or regulars at the restaurant? Or are we talking the folks that live and work here at D Acres?
I love it. I love it that the relationships takes that much clarification. So yeah, let's just focus on the people that come there to work with you, just the people that are part of your immediate community. How is that adapted through the year?
Well, it's definitely a growth process. You know, when I came here, I was 25, and I was more or less of the peer group of the people that were coming to work. You know, so you know, I was just out of college, they're just out of college. We're sort of all in the same peer group. Now it's a lot different because most of the people that are coming for wolfers are considerably younger than I am, and so there's definitely what is it? A age gap, yeah. Um, and so that become evident. You know, sometimes I'm not fully informed of like the technology, uh, and so I feel that sometimes. But in terms of making it work, I think it's having a solid structure and really having a defined expectations. You know, we sort of know what it's going to flow like week to week around here. We're going to meet on Monday. We're going to hash out, you know, the plan for the week, you know, who's cooking when, who's doing chores, what our work week looks like. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we hammer the work. You know, we try to get on time, go for 4 hour blocks, 8 to noon, 2 to 6. And we do the work at hand. You know, we're there to work during that time. And I think, you know, if the community comes into it with that structure, it can go pretty well. And then Friday, Saturday, Sundays, more free time. You know, people are catching up on the chores, they're going hiking, they're going biking, they're sitting by in the hammock or whatever. Obviously there's still farm work that's getting done here and there, but the idea is to really, I think, define the expectations. Um, that to me, you know, is the basis of a solid relationship there with people, you know, coming and going. If we can let them know what we foresee as the plan before they arrive and make sure that meets their expectations. Um,
I
so
like that clear communication and relationships. I think that pretty much answers all the questions with interacting with everyone. So I think that's really beautiful. Thank you. And it's the more people who are doing organizations of your size, I ask that question, they all give me that same answer. That clear expectation and open communication is really, it's everything. And I think it could help us all. Josh, is there any parting wisdom you want to give us? We've had questions on forestry. We've had a lot of questions here, and we can answer those all in the Facebook community group because a lot of them get more detailed. But is there any parting bits of wisdom you'd have for anyone maybe thinking of just starting a permaculture business, or someone just starting to get into this right now? If you could go back and talk to that 25-year-old self of yours, what would you tell them?
Um, well, my advice to everyone is make sure you drink enough water. Yeah. And just, you know, I mean, it's a mental game. It's not going to get solved in a day or a month or a year. This is a marathon. This is our life's work. And you're gonna burn out. You're gonna burn out, because it's the planet's in crisis, and you know, you feel it, you know, your emotions, your heart is in this. And so you're gonna burn out. You're gonna feel low. You're gonna feel like, you know, you can't go on. You don't know, you know, am I really making a difference? You're gonna go through these cycles, and you just have to remind yourself why you got in it and what's the alternative. Like, I'm not gonna give up. This life, everything that we've been blessed with, this fresh air, the water, the biodiversity we're surrounded by is such a gift that, you know, I don't know if it's a negative word, but I say, look, we got to fight for this stuff. We got to struggle. We got to accept the challenges, because there's no alternative. And once you sort of get into that mindset, heck, it's all gonna be all right. It's all gonna be all right.
Oh, thank you, Josh, for being just such an inspiration for so many for so long. I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to come here and talk to us. It's thank you for sharing.
Sure, man. No, thanks for doing the work you guys are doing. Everybody out there. I mean, everybody's rolling. You know, you can feel it. Yeah, let's just keep heading in the right direction. Let's just keep building this momentum.
Yes, we are all in this together for sure. Thank you. Thank you, Amy, for keeping our call together here and making all this happen for the whole season. You've been great. Thank you so much. If you feel like you've gotten anything out of these calls, feel free to donate to us. We always love donations. It keeps us going. We're going to edit this video and put it on our YouTube channel, so we'll share that out to everybody in case you couldn't be on the call. We'd love to get you this information. So we're all in this process of designing a better world here together. A world with regenerative resources like food, water, and energy. A world where we can learn from each other and lift each other up. A world where we can care about the future. I am filled with optimism. The more that I see a place like Sustainable Kashi and a place like D Acres demonstrating that new world, the more I know it's possible. Holding up examples for everyone to see that it can be done, and it feels really good to do it. And what else can we do? I hope you have enjoyed this season of free permaculture classes as much as I have. We look forward to next season, and thank you all for joining us on this important topic. Thank you, Josh, for being here so much.
Much love.
Much love. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Please join us in our community group if you have any questions. We'll talk there for a while, and come and join us. Come keep the conversation going. This is important.